Welcome to the Why Not Today podcast, where we celebrate courage, determination, and the passion or the power of saying, Why not today? I'm your host, Leslie Kane, and in each episode, we dive into inspiring stories of individuals who have taken bold steps, faced their fears, and embraced the possibilities of today. From entrepreneurs to artists, dreamers, or to doers, we explore the moments when they said, Enough waiting, why not today? Join us as we uncover the heartwarming, the audacious, and the transformative, whether it's pursuing a lifelong passion, overcoming obstacles, or simply choosing joy. Our guests share their journeys and inspire us all. I started this podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often did say, Why not today? And remember, you're just one decision away from changing your life. And welcome everybody. And I do like to preface in the beginning of the podcast, if I remember, that I don't edit these podcasts and purposely as part of the Why Not Today message that you just got to do the thing and it's not going to be perfect and that's okay. And so my guest today is Tina Johnson, and she's got lots of titles and lots of accolades. But I met Tina years ago in the networking event space and kind of watched her, and then just recently started playing in her playground, as you say, her sandbox, and getting to know her better. And she's amazing and such a go-giver. And I love that she's listened to or watched lots of podcast episodes. She was quoting things. I'm like, wow, I don't know if anybody's listened or watched that many other than people from the very beginning. So I'm excited to have you, Tina. So Tina, why don't you introduce yourself and a little fast fun fact, and then we'll get into your courage.
Well, first, Leslie, thank you so much. It's an honor to be on here. I think I shared with you when we had our first conversation. This is my second podcast.
I did not
So
remember
it's an
that.
honor
So
to be
yay.
on yours. I typically
Okay.
say no to them, but I could not say no to you. So
Well, thank you.
thank you again for inviting me to be a part of this with you. So
Well,
a
I think
little bit about me.
you have a powerful message that people need to know.
Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you. I was born in Lynchburg, Virginia. I've lived in Virginia all my life. I was adopted at the age 8.5 and brought here to Loudoun County, where I live now, and I've lived here almost all my life. Um, Went to nursing school, became an emergency room nurse, and married my high school sweetheart, and we'll be married almost 40 years.
Oh, wow.
We had 4 boys in 5 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. And started my first business over 35 years ago. I actually started my first business when I was 13, um,
Wow.
doing Avon with my mom at the time. So I was the one that was
Done
actually
that
going
too.
door to door in our neighborhood and asking for sales. So I got my part of whatever I sold. Everything went through her, but I got to keep my part and started saving way back then.
Yeah, that's great. And entrepreneur spirit. Did your parents own their own business or did they work for somebody?
No, and the only real exposure I had to entrepreneurship is, when I was going to high school, they were still talking about, I mean, you were either going to be a teacher, a nurse, mom, secretary. I mean, they were even still calling them secretaries
Right.
back at that time. And so I went the route of, nursing. I always had that kind of, but I didn't know that's what it was called. They didn't even offer business classes when I was in high school. And the only person that I knew that had a woman that had her business in our town, I grew up in Lovettsville, and which basically was a general store and a post office. That's it. And it was our local beautician. That was it. Woman who had a beauty salon. And that was the only woman that I knew that had business and didn't get exposed to that until, much older. And really, even still, when I first started, didn't understand that that was really what I was doing as business. Like, oh, I'm having fun, or, entrepreneurship.
Right. Well, it's interesting. Often ask people that question because I found that a lot of entrepreneurs, their parents were entrepreneurs. So you are the exception. My dad owned his own business my whole life. And so I saw that model. It's interesting. I had lunch with a friend of mine and she works for a public school system. And she's like, she goes, it's a shame that our parents instilled in us that we have to have a career and do the whole career your whole life. And I'm like, well, that wasn't my reality at all
No,
whatsoever. That was yours, but that was not all of us. And it's not an
no,
easy thing. So,
no.
all right. So before we get into all the courage stuff and all your amazing things you've done, is what fun facts do you have for us?
I
You
think
might not
people
know
would
that.
be surprised that know me now is that I actually was a tomboy. Rode mopeds and mini bikes and go-karts and all of that stuff. And, played all that when the boys in the neighborhood were all playing, football in our backyard. I was there, a part of it. So, and played a lot of sports when I was growing up.
It's funny how we evolve.
Yep.
Those watching can see she's in a beautiful pink shirt, but if you're listening and not watching, she's a beautiful pink shirt and always looks gorgeous. So,
Thank you.
so Tina, what does courage mean to you?
I think it's really just doing whatever it is in spite of fear, having faith and trust in yourself, and just taking that first step. A lot of the clients that I work with, I always say, just start with a micro step. Don't think about the big outcome of it. Just take the first micro step to move forward, to make action of moving forward, get the momentum started. And I love what John Akoff, I don't know if anyone follows him on, about goal setting. And he talks about that, we can give fear, a voice, but we never give it a vote.
Love that.
And I love that quote.
Yeah. Give fear a voice, but not a vote.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, and that's the whole kind of premise of Why Not Today is you got to take those steps and just take that little step. And, and that's what I did with this podcast. Like, all right, came up with a name. Now what I'm going to do, talking to people, figured it out, recorded it. It wasn't perfect. And I keep adding different things and getting a little better. And speaking of which, I have a microphone that somebody gave me and I forgot to plug it in. So it's not perfect.
It's okay.
That's okay. So, all right. So you've had a journey of businesses for 35 years.
Mm-hmm.
I started my first business 30 years ago, which is crazy to think.
I know. It's like, how did that
Where
time
did
just
that go?
fly by?
Yeah, exactly. And so, and then I know you've had to pivot and change and evolve. And, our journey starts here and we don't even know where yet. But
Right.
And we pick up lessons and courage throughout. And I love how you've been able to pivot and be able to help so many people. So we could go in a million different directions with this. But let's start with, your first business, or you said Avon, but then your first business, probably an LLC. How did you get into it? And what was your courage steps to do it?
Well, my first business really was that I would say more of an official business. Was I owned a a business where I went and got certified in color analysis. A friend had given it to me. I had gone to get, and I think some people like Color Me Beautiful or one of those, and I went to get my colors done. And then I kept going back to this woman to ask more and more questions because it was just like night and day from
But
what I was.
that's in now again.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah, it's the big thing, and I'm actually teaching a class on it next week.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, I think
full circle.
It's perfect. It's full circle, and it makes a huge transformation for pennies. And I kept going back to her and asking her more questions and getting more information. And she finally one day said to me, you can do this. And I didn't even know what she was talking about. And it was so got me connected. I went and got certified and became a certified style
was it through Color Me Beautiful?
Yes.
Okay. Which
and
still around.
Started doing that. I was still practicing nursing at the time and doing this, on the weekends and raising 4 babies at the same time. And at that time also, I was in direct sales, and I was with a national skincare company and had worked my way up to regional vice president under that line. It's out of South Carolina. A lot of people are not familiar with it, but I enjoyed doing that. I've done a little bit of everything. And out of that, with that business, I had gone to a conference and they had a trade show, and I came back and I'm like, okay, how do I do this? I want to be able to do this. And I had expanded the color analysis style business into, at that time, I wanted to specialize in executive pregnant women because I was having babies back to back. And
Right.
I was like, this is such a unique niche because, at that time there was Peapod and all these very high end, and it would cost $250. And I'm talking, 25, 30, 35 years ago to buy a suit or an evening gown. And women were still wearing suits to business,
Right.
day to day. And so I made arrangements with the buyers and with some of these high end stores, and I would buy clearance items, I would buy samples, and then I would go to the client's office, do a color analysis, and then they could rent the clothing for me for a
Wow,
week.
you're way ahead of your time.
And the local, no one else was doing it at that time on the entire East Coast. Somebody could have been doing it on the West Coast, but no one was doing it. It was called Between Friends. And then I partnered with another local mom who we ended up opening a shop in downtown Herndon. And she had the downstairs, which was high-end children's consignment clothing. And then on the second floor is where I had my boutique. And so women could come to me and get an entire outfit and rent it for a week. We would deliver it, we would pick it up, dry clean it, or I would come to their office and bring them a week's worth of suits, even
Where
whatever
were
they
you in
need.
Herndon?
Off of Eldon Street,
Okay.
in that kind of shopping center that's in that area. And then when I came back and I was looking for a trade show for the two of us to be able to set up and promote our business, it didn't exist, like a baby fair or something. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to create one. And this was kind of my segue into getting into events 30
Wow.
some years ago. And the local newspaper did a front story cover about the business and what we were doing. And at the very end, I just happened to mention, hey, we're going to be doing, in a couple months, I'm doing a baby fair. And we did it at the Renaissance that was there in that area. And my phone rang off the hook. Diaper companies, doctors' offices, the local hospital there were calling and saying, hey, can we come? Because they wanted to reach the mom, because it was all for expectant moms. So I was the first one in the entire metro Baltimore region to launch the very first baby fair.
Wow.
So it was a trade show for expectant parents. And I didn't know anything different. So I was like, sure, come. And didn't charge them a penny.
Oops.
Had no idea. And because no one else was doing it. I mean, at that time, you couldn't even get a degree in event management. It was in hospitality management, and then they did a small segment of event management. So I didn't have anyone that I could tap into to talk to. And then 6 months later, I closed my portion of the shop and started my event company.
Wow.
And it was 34 years ago, and then officially launched it, incorporated, and we've just celebrated in January 32 years. And then I found someone in Boston that had launched a baby fair 2 years after I did, and was having some great success with it, and reached out to her to collaborate and talk through, and she would not talk with me. She wouldn't share anything. And that's what I said, someday I am going to create a community of women that will come together and build authentic connections to be there to, help each other and lift each other up and not look at each other as competitors. And that's kind of how we came out to I built the sisterhood.
Wow.
2 years ago, because we're not competitive. Even if we're in the same business sector, doesn't matter. There's more than enough clients out there that we can all serve, and we can all support each other and build strategic partnerships. I'm a huge
With my history of Mary Kay,
right?
Kay always said we never competed, and we didn't have territories purposely because she herself would build a territory and then they move her. And so she didn't want that. So, we're very respectful. If you already have a Mary Kay consultant, we're not going to take you away. Yep. But she always said, if I have an idea and you have an idea, we each have an idea. But if we share our ideas, we each have two.
That's right.
So, and I think my mentality for 30 years has been that. And when I see people like not wanting to share with you, it's like, those aren't my people. Like, we need to share and collaborate. There is enough business out there for all of us.
There is.
I say, an economic study with Mary Kay said there should be a Cadillac sales director for every bank branch there is in a town. There's that
Mm,
much business. And so thinking about each business, like your business, there should be one for every bank branch. I mean, that's a lot.
it is.
And so there is so much business. And I love what you've created. And I think, I feel like we were connected before we were connected, and our brains are going in the
Yeah,
same direction. That's really where my heart is building that community and connection and like-minded, and get to know people authentically. Like, get to know
absolutely.
who they are, who they be, before you can refer business to them,
Hmm.
if you're going to do that. But to know, like, and trust people, which is so important.
Right. And that's what we have in, like for the CEO Sisterhood is part of when in my opening and welcome remarks, I always just say, I want you to, when you come over the threshold and come into our event, leave all of that other stuff outside the door. I want you to come and sit down and just break bread with another woman sitting across from you and just get to know each other as women first. If business comes out of it, that's an added blessing, but let's get to know each other as women, and how can I support you as another woman and where you are in the season of your life right now.
Yeah, I actually, we're going to talk about that in a second, but I met with somebody the other day, and she's a coach, and she was really coaching me and giving me all this free information and really helping me. And at the end of the conversation, I said, "So how can I support you?" And she was totally taken aback. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, "I've never had anybody ever ask me." I'm like, "Really?" Like, she was so surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think she has this, and I need to pull her into our fold of the connectedness, because I don't think
Yes.
she's had that. So, all right. So you had your event company for several, close
Yeah,
to 30
32
years.
years this January we just celebrated.
So did you, and we'll talk about dates and things where I had to pivot, did you have to pivot or see a difference after September 11th?
Oh my gosh. I mean, we've been through so many recessions. We've survived September 11th. We almost didn't survive the COVID. That was probably the hardest challenge that we had gone through. But yeah, my attitude is always I'm love the movie It's a Wonderful Life, and there's a scene in there where they're dancing around with the tray with $3 on the tray, and they're like, we're still in business. And that's what I kept saying during COVID. Okay, at the end of the day, if I still have $1 in the bank in the business, I still have a business. I can get up and do whatever I can do tomorrow.
Yep. And I think that's the thing with when we hit these obstacles. Owning your own business is not like this, a straight
Oh,
line. It is up and down and
it is a roller
lonely and
coaster all the time.
overwhelming and lots of different things. And I know for me, for September 11th, I remember sitting there on the couch, like glued to the TV, and we're both in Northern Virginia,
Yes.
DC area. So there was the added what was going on there. And like, as a Mary Kay director, it's like, how do you call somebody and say, "Do you need lipstick?" when the world, we didn't know if it was falling apart.
Right.
And but you know what, we just encouraged each other to pick up the phone, and we just connected with people and just called and listened to people's stories and connected heart to heart. And then I remember I went to, there was a sales event that Zig Ziglar and several other top salespeople put on in DC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know if you remember that, but it was completely free.
I
And they
think we were both there at the same time.
Dean Grazioni, I think, was there, and
Uh-huh.
their premise was like, all right, we got to get the sales moving in this country, and
That's
let's
exactly
offer
right.
free encouragement and training, and let's roll. So, all right, so COVID happened, another scary time, the people that have face-to-face businesses. So, but you pivoted, look seamlessly, but not. So let's talk about how you pivoted, still had a couple dollars in your account, and how you created what you created. And was there, I always call it my why not today moment, that moment that obviously years before, when that was a why not today moment, when the woman wouldn't share with you, you're like, I'm going to do something in my future. But was there a moment, a place you were, a time that you're thinking, you knew where you were and what was happening here, that you had that switch, that, all right, this is what I'm going to do?
Well, I think for that experience was, okay, I'm going to just figure this out. I don't know how. I'm just going to keep trying to figure it out. And, there were years where I didn't pay myself. We were losing money right and left because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
I knew kind of what I needed to do, but I didn't know how to do it. And again, it's totally different from where it was, Leslie, when you and I started in business. The women's groups, the support groups, those did not exist. And I can tell you, most of the chambers, and I am a huge supporter of my local chamber, but most of them, 20, 30 years ago was, an all boys network.
Oh, yeah. I was
So,
talking about that today. One of the local chambers, I will not reveal names.
right.
I was part of the chamber and I left because, especially as a Mary Kay consultant, the old bullies network just looked at me like, I don't need that. You're not valuable to me. And they just
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was part of it, is just those things just didn't exist. And then somebody got me connected to, at that time, George Washington University was launching the first ever separate degree that you could get in event management. And I applied for that in the early 90s and was accepted into the program and went through that and got my degree in event management. And then that just changed the trajectory of my whole business, because leading up to that, I was only producing my own events. So then when you're producing, you're responsible for bringing in all of the revenue that you need to produce those events. So after that, now I had the tools and resources and the how-to behind, how to build this business. And I changed the trajectory of the company and started doing event consulting, and then having companies hire us to come in and do their event management along with still producing our own events. And then I got out of doing producing our own events for a couple of years and really worked on building the event consulting and management side of it, and then started getting back into them back in the early 2000s, late 90s, started getting back into producing our own events again.
Yeah. So let's go back to the COVID thing and CEO sisterhood. Did that come first? Was that a Why Not Today moment, starting that? Was there something pivotal?
Well, and during COVID, in about 7 weeks time, we had lost over $600,000 in revenue that was not going to be recouped.
Right.
And I went from 30 some employees down to 3.
Yeah.
So it was a bit, and at the time we had our JP events, but I also was in business with a partner, and we had a business, and we were working with women business owners, but more on the business owners that were close to $1 million and were trying to they were close to getting to $1 million or trying to exceed to $1 million. And we did a year program where the two of us taught those women business owners, and then made a decision that during COVID, it's like I had been doing some kind of testing the waters and doing some kind of coaching. I've been mentoring women for probably 2 decades now, but really got into it about 10 years ago, and supporting the young entrepreneurs and just what could I do to help. And then right before COVID, I had kind of started testing the waters and seeing, is there really a need? Because I delayed starting the CEO Woman and the CEO Consulting Group, because of imposter syndrome. I'm like, there are 1,000 coaches out there. What value do I have to bring to the marketplace? And what I discovered was that a lot of coaches are trained in a specific methodology, and they only teach for that. So you and I could be in the same program, but if it's July, this is what they're teaching us. Well, that may not be what I need. So exactly. That's what and I started thinking back what it was like when I started those first 10 years and 20 years that I was struggling, and what was I missing? And I was missing the how-to. So that's how I built out the business and launched the CEO Consulting Group in August of 2020 and the Women's CEO Business School, and decided that I wanted to teach women business owners the how-to of building a sustainable business. I wanted to take those 20 some years that I had struggled and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in coaching programs and trying to figure out. And it was great for book knowledge, but nobody was teaching me, okay, how do I take what you just, taught me and convert that and apply that and implement that into my business? No one was teaching that part of it.
Right.
And that's where I saw that there was a gap in the marketplace and said, this is what I'm going to do.
That's awesome. And I think you're so right. And, that whole imposter syndrome is so ridiculous.
I know, but it's real. I have many clients that deal with it.
Yeah. Have you read the book, The Big Leap?
Yes.
About that?
It's one
Yeah.
of our required business school books.
Yeah. It's so true. Like
Mhm.
that we get um, stuck in our upper limit and think, oh, is anybody going to do this? But all the experience we've had and all the knocking down and all the ups and downs that we've had to experience in owning businesses
Yep.
prepare us for these things. And we can share with other people, and hopefully they won't have as many. They will have ups and downs, but maybe it's not as many, or have a
Yep.
resource to be able to connect. And it's interesting, as women, I think we do learn differently, and we create different relationships and experiences. I have a friend that's just starting a business, and her husband, being the supportive husband he is, ordered her a book. And she's like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to read a book. Like, I'm going to talk to people. I'm going to figure out how to do this. That we want to talk to the person that's gone through it.
Exactly. Well, connect with me. I'm happy. I always, anyone that books a call with me, a strategy call, discovery call, whatever you want to call it, I never go into that expecting to sell them anything. It's, what are you struggling with right now, and how can I help you? Is there a connection? Is there a resource? Is there a tool that I can send you? If I get the privilege of being able to be on their business journey with them, it's a blessing.
And I love that about you. You've been very helpful in ideas for me. And, I think it goes back to my starfish story, which if you've watched the
Yeah.
podcast, you've heard it, but,
Mhm.
you never know whose life you're going to make a difference
That's right.
in. And you could make a difference and never see them again, but you made a difference. Or
That's
you never know who that person you're going to meet that knows that person that you need that connection with. I've been calling it my Why Not Today scavenger hunt.
Mhm.
That people are just, God is putting people in my path. And I know that I've, through my years of building businesses and connecting and networking, that there's people on our path that we're supposed to meet. And you never know who that one person's going to lead to.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
yeah, I think my next podcast episode is going to be on the Why Not Today scavenger hunt.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. And it's very
Open.
aligned with my mantra. It's like, Mother Teresa, and it's like, I alone cannot change the world, but, I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. And that's what I live by every day. It's like, today when I get up, every day I get up and go, who can I touch today? Who can I help make a change? For better for them, their families, and the community as a whole. So I'm one person, but by me touching you and you touching others, we can all make a change in the world through that ripple effect.
So true. Um, yeah, we never know. And, you may pour your heart out and give lots of time and effort to one person and it doesn't put money in your
Yeah,
pocket.
it's
But the
okay.
next person comes from nowhere and you're like, where did they come from?
Right.
I have a mentor that said, things don't fall in your lap unless your lap is out there.
That's
So true. All right. So just so people know, we're kind of talking a lot of lingo with your businesses. So what is the difference between CEO Sisterhood, CEO Business School, and CEO Consulting?
The CEO Consulting Group is our umbrella company, and
Okay.
under there we have three silos of kind of communities. So CEO Consulting Group, under there I have my private consulting. So I have clients that I work with one-on-one.
Okay.
And then we have our in-person year-long CEO Women's the Business School. So it's a year-long in-person program. And then 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago in September, we launched our membership community, which is our CEO Sisterhood. So you don't have to be in any of our other private programs, but this is really a community that we wanted to come together. Most everything that we do is virtual because we were all going 50,000 directions and, so many appointments, another appointment to get in the car. So we only come together in person 4 times a year to break bread together. But everything else, we do monthly educational workshops. We do a coffee and connection. So we do a virtual kind of networking social time together at the end of the month. And then there's a private Facebook group, and that enables our members to be able to go in if you've got an event, if you've got a special, whatever it is that you want to share with that community. Many of the members will actually, like if they're changing their brand or their logo, or they have a question about something they want to launch, they'll put it out to the community.
That's great.
It's a great, and we've worked hard to build that community and having it really build the authentic connections. And it's a community of non-judgmental. And I have no hesitation of kicking someone out if, if I find that someone's in the group, and I'll say, knock on wood, 2 years, I have not had to do that, because people know that when they're coming in. I mean,
Right.
we vet the women that are coming in because we want everybody to be there to help lift everyone up, up. And like you said, you may not need the service of this other woman that has something, but you may know somebody else that can help her or help support her business, and it all comes back around.
Yeah, so true. Well, I was going to say, I've been to 2 of the socials and a great community and meeting all kinds of powerful women. So I'm excited to be doing more with this group. So how would you encourage somebody else to say why not today, to start a business, to do the thing?
I just have the courage to I know it's easier said than to do that. And I always say everything you want is waiting for you on the other side of fear.
So true. Love that. So I always try to connect this back to my dad. Mm-hmm. And people are like, I never met your dad, which you may have met my dad in the crisscross of the world.
We lived in Reston for 10 years when it was Reston Avenue. So the Parkway, the town center, none of that had been built.
We used to play soccer where Reston Town Center. So right. My dad, so the logo of Why Not Today is my dad, and he had an eye patch and a handlebar mustache.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he was all about community, and he actually did start the Reston Chamber. So you being a part of it, you probably knew him.
Yes.
Ran at some point. And he started not because he had business here, but because he was raising 6 children in the community. And so he wanted a support community that if he needed somebody for this, somebody for that. I remember one time when I was in high school, my car got towed. They changed the parking in some apartment complex to reserved, and it got towed. So he took to pick it up, and there was a chamber. They were a member of the chamber, and so my dad's like, "Oh, I'm so glad I'm the president of the chamber." And they're like, "Oh, well, you don't have to pay then. Don't worry about it." And he's like, "No, we're going to pay because she's going to learn a lesson." He never made me pay him, but I did learn that lesson. Mm-hmm. And so other connections too in Herndon. I don't know what years you had your store. Probably after him, but the late 80s, he actually worked for the town of Herndon to do the master plan.
Wow.
Which they never could agree on anything. And I found it the other day. I have it, which is kind of fun. Your thinking is way ahead of your time, I think, in talking to some of the ideas you had. Mm-hmm. And he was the same way, that he way ahead of his time and ideas, and his brain never stopped.
Yeah.
And then 4 kids in 5 years, that was us.
I know. Well, you were a couple ahead of me.
Yeah. So yeah, that was our family. We had 4 kids in 5 years, and then there was a 12 years difference. And then my sister. So there's 18 years between myself and my younger sister.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? But same family. My mom was pregnant when I graduated high school, which was very embarrassing. Mm-hmm. So, well, we could talk forever, and I am excited for everybody to listen to this podcast episode and hear more. And it's going to be out mid-July, and at the end of July, Tina is going to be my guest for the Why Not Today Connect luncheon, and so we'll dive a little deeper. So if you're listening to this, you want to come join the luncheon and come hear a little bit more and get involved. And I know she's going to be a sponsor of a couple luncheons with things that she's doing. Mm-hmm. So definitely want to connect with Tina and follow her. So what's the best place for people to find you? I know we're going to share all your contact.
The best place is to go to ceowoman.com.
Okay.
They can find out about the sisterhood community, any of our programs. They can schedule a strategy call. And I encourage them to go to the website because we always have a free digital gift on there, something that will help them in their, business or leadership journey. So there's always a free digital gift. They just go on and sign up for it, and it drops right into their inbox.
All right. I need to look to see if I got one.
Yeah. So. And I'm looking forward to the luncheon because I know we're going to try something a little bit different and do more of a fireside chat and just
Yep.
be an open book and let you ask me whatever you want to ask me.
Right, well, with the current weather, it might be a fireside chat.
I know.
Ridiculous. So, well, thank you so much, Tina, and what an honor to have you. And I feel privileged that you've only done 2 and you usually say no. So thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Leslie.
And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this inspiring journey. Remember, every day is an opportunity to take action, chase your dreams, and make a difference. So why not today? So make sure you subscribe, keep pushing forward, like, review, tell your friends about the podcast, the luncheons, all the things we're doing. All the things for Why Not Today are on the Why Not Today podcast at whynottodaypodcast.com. So until next time, stay motivated, keep making things happen, and say, why not today? So thanks, Tina.
Thank you.